And we're live. Welcome back to the Loopcast. I'm welcoming myself back to the Loopcast. I enjoyed a wonderful vacation, and I'm joined here with Erika and Josh. I have to give a shout out to some Loopcast fans. I did tweet a little bit on vacation, or X or whatever it's called now. And multiple times I had people in the comments being like, you're not doing vacation right. Like you're supposed to go on vacation and not tweet. I'm like, respectfully.
What is that? I don't understand that. What do they mean by that?
What, going on vacation? Is that a foreign concept?
I guess, but like, you know, like don't tweet. You can't tweet on vacation.
Josh, but they meant it well. It's all about context.
They wanted him off social media.
Right. They wanted me to become rested so I can come back and deal with you.
You're on vacation, you're out having fun with your kids, and then you want a little time away from your kids to go onto Twitter. That's okay.
Vacation from the vacation.
I mean, vacation from the vacation. You will understand that as you get to be an older dad.
Yeah. Oh no, don't worry. It was a lot of parenting in a different place, but I'd just like to give a huge shout out to Hershey, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. A lot of my ancestors came from there, and they're just some of the best people ever. And shout out to my parents. It's actually my parents' wedding anniversary today.
Oh,
and we're a big
what a great
fan
day.
and they listen. I know they listen. So shout out to my parents.
Happy anniversary.
I'm sure many people probably feel similar, but they were a humongous inspiration to me, taught me what real love was, sent me on the right path. So huge shout out to my parents. Another wedding anniversary. It's crazy. So, but that's not what the show's about today. So on today's show, we're going to be talking, it's debate week, if you can believe it. We have a big presidential debate coming down the pipe. We have some fun plans for that. We're going to talk a little bit of debate prep. We're also going to talk about Dobbs anniversary. Happy anniversue to Dobbs. It's been 2 years today. So we got a lot to talk about there. And then finally, we can't get rid of this guy's art, Mario Rupnick, or Marco Rupnick. Just cannot get rid of this guy. We had some things really boil over a couple days ago. We're going to discuss all of that drama. But before we do that, if you want to help with the show, leave us a review. Saw a really nice one on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for those. It helps us out a ton. Subscribe here on YouTube. Put notifications on, all that good stuff. But let's get into it here.
I mean, you can leave a comment if you want Tom to go on vacation more often. You know, that
No, we don't. We do not want Tom to go on vacation, and we don't want Josh's internet to fail.
Yeah.
And we'll just all be together.
Erika, you did some solo podcasting.
I did solo podcasting for about 30 seconds as I wondered in my head, do I just call it? Yeah, the poor.
It was a particularly hot day, and every single one of my children decided to download videos of people playing video games or something. Get off the internet! I have to reach my people.
This is a family program. This is a family program indeed. Okay, so let's get into a little debate prep. Okay, so if you can believe it, we have a debate coming June 27th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on CNN. So this is the first debate between a sitting president and a former president. And we have some rules laid down, okay? So, Erika, just so we all kind of know what's coming.
He's definitely going to be a sitting president because he can't stand up for that long.
Because he can't stand ka-ching, bum.
So, what's going on here? There's some interesting specifics when it comes to the rules. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so you might remember about a month ago, Biden made a statement, I'll debate you anytime, anywhere. Turns out under some very specific environmental factors here. So we have rules and people are debating whether or not these favor Biden or Trump. I think it's pretty clear. So both candidates are going to appear at uniform podiums. Trump's going to be on the left and Biden on the right. That was interesting because the Biden administration, they won the coin toss. There was a coin toss, so you could randomize it. And the winner was the Biden camp. And they got to either choose the podium or choose who got the last word. The Biden people chose the podium on the right.
This is just like football.
This
is like receiving the kick?
Yeah, you will receive, you will kick.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Is this a standard thing, Josh? Do they do this coin flip every time, or is this new?
They always do this kind of stuff. And I mean, every once in a while, I remember one time I played football and, like, do you pick or do you defer? Usually defer because you want to go last. You want the ball first in the second half, And I played a team and, we deferred to them and then they decided to kick it. And I'm like, really? So we got the ball both times. I mean, some people make mistakes. So I feel like this is a mistake as well. Why would you not want to go last? I just, you beg for that. I mean, I'm a political junkie, so we always look for this kind of stuff, right? I look for these kind of things because these things matter. So, like for example, the first name on the ballot gets just a little bit of an advantage. And so, what they'll do in many states is they'll randomize it or whatever, the top two or however it goes, so that it's that there's no advantage. Because some people just get lazy, they mark it real fast, and so those are little things
That's
you know about human behavior. And you want to go last. You want whatever that guy said. You want to be able to have the last word, have the last chance to respond to it. I cannot believe, having received the coin flipped in their favor, that the Biden camp didn't want to go last. This
must be like an age thing, right? Like
maybe
this is a better angle for him.
I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry, Erika, there's a few more rules here, though.
Well, so the microphones will be muted, except when it is that candidate's turn to speak. So you might remember the first 2020 debate between the two was a real shouting match just over each other. It was my daughter's first time watching a presidential debate. We were like, oh, we're going to introduce you to the civil discourse. No, did not happen. So microphones will be muted.
That is amazing to think about. That was their first.
That was her first.
It's going to be just
experience.
like the Lincoln Douglas debates.
She had been reading the Lincoln Douglas debates in history class. She was a 9th grader, Mother Divine Grace. She read the Lincoln Douglas debates.
Oh my gosh.
And then she watched Biden Trump. So I think they're going to hopefully avoid that. There will be no studio audience, which I think really is, in Biden's favor, because Trump really feeds off of live audiences. There will be no props.
It's because Donald Trump knows how to tell a good joke. Biden does not know. I mean, like when Donald Trump said in the Hillary Clinton debate, and she's going on, it's so great that someone like you doesn't have all the things in charge of the Justice Department and all these things. And you're like, yeah, because you'd be in jail. I mean, dude.
Yeah, it was so good.
The whole eyes like, dang, bro.
Yeah,
one of my favorite.
That's why I feel like the muted microphones are also in Biden's favor for that reason, because Trump's little zingers that are just so good. Like
dude,
we won't have those.
One of my favorite moments too is Megyn Kelly really was winding up on a question about his treatment of women, because I think like the tapes came out or something like you're on record calling women this and that and this, and he's like, how do you feel about like speaking to women that way? He's like, I only talk about Rosie O'Donnell that way.
Only
everyone was
everyone laughed. It's not true, but it was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay, so no mics, no studio audience.
No props. They can't have props, so no puppets. Tom McCluskey will be disappointed. He loves his props. And no pre-written notes. They just get pen, blank paper, and a water bottle. I'm not sure if Biden's water bottle will be pure water, but
some uppers in there.
You two cats are probably too young for this, but in the 1984 presidential election cycle, which I do remember, Ronald Reagan was riding such high waves. I mean, the economy was so good; it was so much better than it was just 4 years before. And the only thing that Mondale could use against his opponent was he was just too old. And by the way, he's young. He was much younger then than both of these candidates are now, significantly. But it was, a different time. And so Mondale, his whole gambit was to say, this guy's too old. He doesn't know what's going on. He's not paying attention. Basically, what Trump is saying about Biden, right? If Biden could pull this off, we'll see. I doubt it. But Mondale and his campaign hammering Reagan, too old. He's asleep at the wheel, doesn't know what's going on. And then Reagan in the debate says, I have heard a lot about this. And I have to say this. He gets asked this question. Is there any point where you might be too old to be able to do the job as president? He goes, look, I will not use age as a factor in this campaign. I will not exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience. And I'm telling you, man, it's funny because Mondale himself laughed at the joke, which is the thing you never do. Like that joke landed so well that even Mondale laughed. And afterwards, they asked Mondale a few years later about this. And he goes, what'd you think about that? He goes, I knew at that point he won it. Oh, you mean he won the debate? He goes, no. I knew he won the election.
Right.
And sometimes you have those moments where it just connects, and Trump connected with the thing about Hillary, you'd be in jail. Will there be any of these big fireworks? We'll see. The thing is, how many people are going to be paying attention to this debate? Because you do have a situation where most of the debates are in October, almost every last one. has been in October. This thing's happening before the 4th of July. This is
Before the
happening in
convention.
June.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very unheard of. So we'll see. Well, you know.
And I think,
Yeah.
and we can get into moderators here in a second, but I think a big reason for this, as I understand, and Trump did an interview on this of like, why are you taking this? Like, you're doing it on CNN. It's going to be hostile. There's all these stipulations you have to agree to. And he's like, I am so confident that I will beat him, that I do not care. I accepted the worst possible terms. It's going to be against me. It does not matter. Like, he is done.
It's good to have that framework, that
right.
peace of
And,
mind.
and it actually is kind of, I think, like helpful rhetoric for Trump. I think it continues to help him. And I know that President Biden descended into Camp David last week, supposedly to prepare all week. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know
7
what
days,
drug
yeah.
cocktail they're coming up with to get him going for this debate. But in terms of strategies, what I've seen from the Biden team, they're actually planning to attack character. So they're not really going to be focusing on policy, which smart. I wouldn't either after a lot of these policies. And Trump said he's going to focus on policy. Now, we'll see how long that lasts. I don't know. I think one of the biggest problems, I think, with that debate that Erika was talking about was it quickly descended into name calling,
A food fight.
Yeah,
a
it was
food
a food
total
fight.
food
Very
fight.
good. Yeah.
And the problem too is that Trump is so fast. When you're talking to someone who is slower, it's almost like it can come across as bullying or badgering. Like, it's not an effective argument.
Yeah, it did
technique.
not play well for Trump. It
No.
was not. It was
Made
not
him look
good.
bad.
Women hated it, and also I think again I point this that comedian Shane Gillis, he's got kind of a salty routine online about all this stuff. So I'm not trying to recommend necessarily everyone watch it, but I like it, but it's a little
He's very
salty.
funny.
He's very funny. But the point that he made, and I think this is actually a correct assessment, is that Donald Trump, you know, when he was all running through the primaries in the 2016 campaign and then against Hillary in the general, he was able to get underneath their skin and they snap and they kind of lose their, because most politicians are almost robotic and like memorizing these talking points and this is their speech. And I met a young kid from Kentucky and this is why, blah, 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 and they're like a robot. Like
Yeah.
they're like a drone. They just
Josh, remember the Marco Rubio moment? Was it Chris Christie that had a meltdown of like, he's just a politician who's just going to repeat talking points, and then he continued to repeat the same talking
His
point, which I
talking
like
point.
Marco Rubio, but
I
totally
love
melted
Rubio
down on stage.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where you know you get rattled, so then you go into your comfort zone. Donald Trump doesn't go robotic. He doesn't give these answers. In fact, that's part of the reason why the media loves to just point fingers at him, because he will say things and he might be like a word or two off, but the audience knows what he means. And so
Right.
they're like, yeah, I'm with you. I track what you're saying. You know, you said this when you meant that or whatever. But when it comes to this, you know, to the debates, Trump was able to get these guys off their game and get under their skin and rattle them. They either go into what Rubio did, where he just kind of gets reprogrammed to this robotic things, or the other candidates, they start screaming and yelling, and Trump just laughs like, I got you. That didn't work against Biden, because he's trying to get underneath Biden's skin, and Biden is, I think, was so asleep at the wheel, he just goes right back in, or whatever, you're kind of blah, meh, meh. That was Gillis's point, and that Biden just, and so I think it's real, and so Trump got even more mad. It's like, it's not working, and he doubled down, triple down, throw the kitchen sink at this guy. What Trump needs to do for this debate is have that self-confidence that, like, I'm not going to try to rattle this guy. I should just be able to have him stammer and mumble and then look at the camera and go, really, America?
Yep.
This is the best we can do? Give me a break. Remember what it was like when I was in charge? It was a lot better. So that's what I think he needs to do.
So the winning strategy here is to do like the office style, like look at camera.
Jim Halpert, yeah.
Or break the fourth wall, right?
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like he just needs to resist that temptation to do what he usually does and just let him hang himself on his own words. Like, it won't be hard. We see it happen almost every other day. And I think I was out during this, but didn't the White House press secretary come out and say like, oh, these are this thing called cheap fakes?
Cheap
Where-
fakes. Yeah, you missed the cheap fakes episode.
We talked
John.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just make up new stuff to this
Yeah.
is unbelievable. I was like,
It's not a deep
guys,
fake. It's a
your eyes
cheap
are completely
fake. Yeah.
lying to you. But I did
Yeah.
want to bring up and I want to hear more from Erika here, but Eric Sammons over at Crisis Point, I thought this was interesting coming from him, because he is not like a huge Trump guy. Like he never was a big Trump guy from the beginning, and he just heard Trump speak for the first time live. I think he was in Detroit. And so basically, and I'll just read his tweet here. I thought this is informative when it comes to his style. To be blunt, I've never liked Trump's style of communication, but I've only seen it in bits and pieces or during debates. I've never sat through an entire speech before. As a speaker myself, I know how difficult public speaking can be. You can lose an audience quickly, and it's hard work to command a crowd. Trump is by far the best public speaker I've ever witnessed. It's a weird phenomenon. He's not a smooth speaker, nor does he follow what appears to be a structured plan. Neither does he use typical emotional tricks a speaker can use to emotionally grab an audience. Trump's style instead is to sound like he's speaking in a stream of conscious way. Going from one point to another is what on the surface appears to be a haphazard way. He's like the BSer who sits at the end of the bar entertaining everyone with one great story after another, most of them skirting or even ignoring the truth. Yet, if you follow him closely, there's a method to the madness. He often circles back to previous points, intersperses funny anecdotes that drive home a point, and hammers home his main points again and again, but not in a repetitive or boring fashion. In short, he commands a crowd like no one else in today's political discourse, and he does it in a unique Trumpian way. Some fear this, comparing him to evil dictators who can command a crowd like Hitler and Mussolini, but the vibe is all wrong. During a Trump speech, it's like everyone, except those with TDS, are all in on an inside joke. They know his stories are greatly exaggerated or even made up, but it's all done with a wink and a nod. He's laughing at the political establishment and the rules of what you can and cannot say, and the audience knows it. I also see now why his enemies hate him so much. He refuses to follow convention or give his due to his betters, the pundit class that determines what politicians are allowed to say and what they are not allowed to say. This infuriates them. I still don't like Trump, although I support him for the president in November, but I now get his pull and why people have become such big fans of him.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
That's really interesting. And I'm glad he saw him live too, because I've heard the same thing from people who see Trump live for the first time, and they're like, I get it. And it, like he says, on the left, they're like, oh my gosh, it's just like Hitler and Mussolini, commanding crowds of thousands. And that's not it at all. Like this reminds me of when he was convicted, he came out in front of the courthouse and he just was speaking off the cuff. And one of the Democrat commentators, the liberal commentators, was like, oh, he's so dumb. Like, he can't put a sentence together. He just repeats the same word. But if you actually went back and listened to it, he has the word that he wants you to walk away with. And that was, in that case, rigged. Like, this was a rigged trial, a rigged conviction. And he goes back to the word, but he circles it with different sentences. He had like an anecdote about Ellen Bragg that he sprinkled in, but he always came back to the one word. And he was talking to people where they're at. He wasn't trying to give like, a Winston Churchill style speech of like, this is the geopolitical whatever of my conviction and this is the end of, but he got the job done. And it is really interesting because Trump's supporters trust him in a way that they don't trust like a Matt Gaetz or a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, he just commands more of the trust of that. And it's fascinating to watch. But I appreciate Eric Sammons here, especially like you said, he wasn't a never Trumper, but he was not himself like oh yeah,
like right away.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
he probably represents what a lot of people feel, which is why I appreciate his insight there. And then also you brought this up too. He just went on the Impulsive podcast. So I'm really going to date myself here because I'm sure neither of you are very familiar with the Paul brothers.
I don't know about this one.
With the what?
I'm back, baby. So there's a podcast called Impulsive. It has this guy, Logan Paul, on it. Him and his brother, Jake Paul, are very, very popular online. Jake Paul is a boxer, basically a social media boxer. I think he was about to fight Mike Tyson, but that fell through. Anyway, all besides the point, they went to Mar-a-Lago and did an interview with Trump, an hour-long podcast interview. And even during, first off, he won those guys over. Like, they're very popular. They'd be popular in my demo, maybe a little bit younger. He also went on another podcast called The Nelk Boys, and that got banned. But now we're at the point where he's not being banned anymore. And he even said on it, he's like, Joe Biden will not come on this podcast. And they're like, oh yeah, open invite. Like, if you want to come on, he's like, he won't. Like, and he can't.
That's true.
It's kind of like the RFK thing. Like, everyone started liking RFK Jr. because he went on all these podcasts, made coherent points, seemed likable. Trump does all the same stuff, right? There's just a different, in both of them actually get censored all the time. But to me, I'm like, okay, from the rallies to the podcasts, like there's a level of authenticity that Joe Biden and the Democrats genuinely lack. I'm not saying all of them, because some of them are very popular online, the AOCs of the world, although what she did in the Bronx was kind of wild with the other guy. Anyway, so I want to get into now, Josh and Erika, we were all very disappointed in the previous debates between Biden and Trump. And I think now understanding, okay, it's going to be on CNN. I think it's Jake Tapper is going to be a moderator. We're probably not going to get what we want. It'll probably be a little slanted. But if we were to say, okay, us three here together, what do we want addressed and talked about in a meaningful fashion during this debate that would help serve the public or just yourselves? Like, what do you want to hear talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Trump to win, he has to focus on the top two, which would be immigration and the economy, inflation, right, under Biden. Because again, that's where we have that really unique, historically unique side-by-side comparison that Trump just wins on every metric in terms of what he did to control immigration while he was president compared to both Obama before him and then obviously Biden after him. And then also, of course, with the inflation, again, it's just side by side. Were you better off 5 years ago? The answer is probably yes for everyone listening, everyone watching. It's interesting because we know that Biden's team wants to just pretty much focus on Trump's character. He's a threat to democracy, J6, and all of this. And to me, like Trump's response should just be, J6 was 3 years ago. This is all you can come up with. Like, let's just focus on where the American people are right now. So I'd love to hear him just shut down that whole angle from the Biden campaign. I hope he can do it.
Why shut it down? I mean, I would hope that the Biden campaign would continue to talk about defending democracy because it's so baloney. Like you're basically trying to convince the American people that you have to vote for Joe Biden, otherwise you won't be able to vote in elections ever anymore. I mean, like this idea that Trump is somehow hello, Biden is the one that's trying to put his political opponent in jail, and you're the ones that pretend like you're for favor of democracy. It's a joke. And it's not registering in a way. There's actually a recent poll that showed that the American people, more of them believe that if you believe in defending democracy, you should vote for Donald Trump over Biden. So look how good their arguments are working and connecting with the American people. I agree with you. Number one, it's immigration, and then it's inflation, and then number three, I would say mental fitness to be president. I think it is quite obvious that Trump and the Republicans, some of their punches are landing with regards to saying that Biden is just too old. Like, nothing against the guy, but there's a lot against the guy. Don't get me wrong. But the whole point is he's there are some people who are 80 years old that are very sharp, and that's just not Joe Biden. So it's nothing against people who are 80. I'm not trying to say that, but he is declining in a pretty noticeable way. And it's pretty obvious that the White House knows it's affecting the polling numbers because they are striking back, and they're lackeys. They're lackeys, not only with that kind of a goober defense, but they're coming back to this stuff that's saying Trump he's needing to hold his junior's hand because he's walking up stage. They're making stuff up like about trying to make it so that Trump's not mentally sharp.
Right.
And so they think if we keep attacking Trump for not being mentally sharp, we might bring it to a draw. And it's like, no.
I see that's a huge mistake. If anything, that just gets more eyes on the comparison, and the comparison is not comparable.
Right.
I mean, geez. Remember the fly-in when he was at the G7 summit, and they were like, wow, this is a cheap fake. They just took this small part of him walking away from a dude dropping out of the sky and walking to someone else. And it's like, look at the larger footage. And then you looked at the larger footage, and it was worse.
Like, no,
it was worse.
It was worse. I was like, you guys played yourselves.
He's like a Roomba. He's gonna vacuum. Yeah. Where's the wall? I don't know where the wall is.
Yeah, oh, it was the same thing with the.
I mean, remember? Do you remember this?
Same thing.
Pogo, you might have been in kindergarten at the time, but George W. Bush, he was leaving a press conference in Iraq, and he was going away, and he went to the door. It was like the wrong door, and he just kind of whoops, it was a human thing. We just looked at it, and it's like, that's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? And then he went the other way or whatever, and everyone laughed.
Like yeah.
But no one thought he was a moron, or that he needed to completely reboot his processor because he just it's just like.
Yeah, the worst one last week, I think, was Joe Biden was walking along a sidewalk, and the sidewalk turns to the right, and then there's a grassy hill behind it, and you see the Secret Service being like, this way, this way, go follow the sidewalk. And he just walks right past them and goes into the grass and like up into the bushes. And you're like, where did he go? And you're,
Although
he's not there.
he did overperform at the State of the Union. And by overperform, I mean didn't completely melt down. So
he beat expectations.
His condition has worsened on the eye test since then. So it's going to take quite another drug cocktail to get him where it needs to be. But I do have an is it IPSUS? IPSOS? Is that pronounced?
I think so. Yeah.
Great. So they did do a poll on what the top issues Americans care about here. So top, we have the economy. Second, we have inflation. Third, we have crime and safety. Fourth, healthcare. Fifth, protecting American democracy. And then sixth, the border. But I feel like that definitely. Oh,
yeah. And here's the thing too. Like, as a political would tell you, that there's the issues that people say they care about when they fill out a survey, and then there's the ones that they actually respond to when it comes to issue ads or how they vote or whatever. So, like, if you ask voters, are you gonna vote based on whether or not the person is mentally fit for office? Like, I mean, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah,
but
right.
They definitely will. They will, decide, because you see that when the stories, it's not just the debacle at the Afghanistan. It was that Biden's mental acuity was pretty apparently taking a hit last September, and that's when the polls went down. And they never really ever recovered until about a week or two ago, where the polls go. Now they're kind of tightened up again. But that means Donald Trump was leading just about every poll since September. And, again, we'll see what happens. It's still going to be a close race. But I would think Trump's in the driver's seat.
Yeah. And I think, speaking on immigration here, so it's actually Kevin Roberts from Heritage birthday today.
Happy birthday, Kevin.
And so happy birthday to Kevin. I'm a fan of Heritage for sure. I think they're one of the best think tanks out there. I'm excited for what they're going to do, hopefully in the next administration. But we have a great clip. I thought we could play it partially for his birthday, but partially just because I love it. And I think this kind of sums up a lot of the discourse on immigration right now.
Kevin's awesome, by the way.
He's great on media.
Like 12 years ago, he was in charge of a group called Catholic Families for America. And then he came to us and said, I'm not going to compete. Catholic vote, you guys are doing it great. And he just.
So your metric of good guy is if they acquiesce to you?
I mean, that's a pretty good standard.
It helps.
All right. Do we have the clip here, Simon?
Asking about immigration and how you see immigration, how in this plan, how you talk about using like the National Guard to deport individuals. Like, what is the, Alicia, and do tell me if I am adequately
people on the interior
summarizing.
specifically.
People
not
on
the
the interior specifically, not people in the border, people within this country.
Well, first of all, we need to close the border. And secondly, we need to have the biggest mass deportation system ever in the history of America, because it is unjust and illegal and evil that more than 10 million illegal aliens have come to this country. It's imperative that we send those people back, invite them back to come through the legal system. We love immigrants at Heritage, but we also love the rule of law.
So how do you plan to carry that out?
Well,
are you talking about going door to door? Because that's what I could read from the plan, but I think
the first thing is that there's going to be a lot of self-deportation. The interesting thing, as you no doubt know, is that simply talking about this and beginning to implement a plan, and President Trump deserves a lot of credit for talking about this, causes people to say, I don't want to run the risk of being arrested for doing something illegal. But secondly, there are great plans using the Department of Homeland Security to return these people back to south of the border. The great thing is, even a majority of people on the political left agree with this, because they see the damage that this has done.
Well, before we go,
I think we want to take a couple more minutes. And so I know we're being told to wrap, but we want to take a few more minutes.
I'll stay as long as you want.
No. Just ask you real quick. So what do these people do? What are they doing now?
Which people?
The folks, the 11 million, 20 million, whatever you want to deport.
A lot of them are committing crimes like murdering the 12-year-old girl in Houston. In fact,
so that's one out of 11 million. What is
we can take the remaining time in a second, and I can give you a lot
in
of
Texas, undocumented immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime. Undocumented immigrants, and according to a survey, University of California Riverside study, 33% less likely to be in prison as of 2021.
Young lady killed
I'm just giving the numbers.
Tell Lake and Riley's
tell the parents of those people, those young girls who were killed. This is
the
preponderance of these people.
What is the difference between an illegal immigrant who unfortunately engages in that activity.
And we don't like that. I want to be clear. We don't use the term illegal. So
Yeah, we don't.
undocumented individuals.
They're illegal aliens.
Undocumented individuals
That's
versus
sweet.
anyone else who commits the same crime. Well, I mean, it's
Yeah, I think
what you're
that-
saying is
Yeah.
because
That rounds us out. I just love that in this clip. That's sweet.
That's sweet.
They
They're
committed a
illegal.
crime. They're illegal, and it's like we got to shy
Doesn't
away
change
from
the
saying that
fact.
now.
Yeah, it doesn't change the
It's
fact.
clever, yeah. Oh, you had a problem with one of those words? I'll still use illegal with a different
Yeah.
word that it modifies. He's right though, in the sense that, I mean, it's unlikely that there's going to be a lot of door-to-door stuff. I mean, if Trump gets elected and the border is secure,
Mhm.
and then you start implementing things, like E-Verify, and you make it so that it's really, really difficult to get a job if you are here illegally, then a lot of those people are like, you know what, I'm gonna go back home. And you provide opportunities for people to say, look, I'm here illegally, I want to go home, help me get home. We'll help you get home, because we want to make it so that we have an understanding of who exactly is in our country. It's not a good idea to have 11 million people in your country illegally. It's not good for anyone. It drives up the cost of rent and home ownership. It drives up a lot of
Drives
other
down
costs.
wages.
It
for the
drives down
working class.
wages because these all, again, it tends to be suppressing of it. It's not like they're coming in here and they're all making, $200,000 a year or something like that. And our hearts go out to them. But the fact is, you did come into this country illegally, and even if you didn't commit a crime, like their point was like, well, not all of these people are killing people. Yeah, okay, that's true. Let's say their only crime was entering into the country illegally. It's still, we set up a system where we have legal migration to this country, about 1 million a year. Maybe that's too much, but the whole point of it is that we figure we can handle that and adjust that into our economy, that it's good. But if you have hundreds of thousands of people crossing the border over the course of every month, every year, or whatever, then you're driving up the cost of housing, you're pushing down the cost of wages, and people are feeling the pinch.
Mhm.
And it's not good to have an underground economy of 10 million people. It allows them to be exploited by, unsavory businessmen. So yes, self-deportation is going to be the answer to about 70% of this, at least, I would think. People are like, you know what? I can't get a job anymore. I'm here illegally. Maybe I should go back home. And we'll be at a better
Well, and
spot.
I think just to add in, I think too, cutting the welfare benefits that so many of them are enjoying. So, I mean, you think of what New York City has
Free
put up,
housing, handing out
right?
gift cards.
New York City,
yeah.
it has 130 to 140,000 illegal immigrants in hotels, in apartment buildings right now, camping in schools. I mean, we don't have to go door to door. New York City can get rid of 130,000 like
Roll up
that,
a few buses,
right?
yeah.
But you say you stop feeding some from the same welfare as the American citizens are being fed, and you start to put the squeeze, like you said, and you're going to have that self-deportation going on that be much more effective than, we're going to go raid door to door.
Yeah, but I think we're focusing on the wrong part here. The kill shot of this is that all of these deaths of young American girls are preventable. Every single one of them was preventable. And I wish that, and I really hope, and I'm sure he will, I bet he'll even bring some of the families, maybe they can't be live, obviously, but all these young girls who were killed by illegal migrants could have been prevented by the president of the United States. And
well, at his rally, at one of his rallies this weekend, Trump read aloud the names of all the known victims, and it took like 45 names or something. And so he read them all aloud, and I think that was really rhetorically
and it's crazy
and
that
morally
this guy interviewing didn't. So he was like, "Oh wow, okay, so one out
That's
of whatever."
one.
That's all
Like,
he
no, it's
gave
not one.
for a 12-year-old girl in Houston being brutally murdered and sexually
Okay,
assaulted
so
by someone who should not be here.
Are you talking about the black man that was interviewing Kevin Roberts right there?
Yeah.
During that clip?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Michael Steele.
Steele.
He was in charge of the Republican Party in 2009 and 2010. Just in case you want to know why our party was in such shambles. Like, people are like, how did Donald Trump raise to power and take over the GOP in 2016? Because we had dipwads like that guy running the party. I mean,
that is shocking. So that's why
him and Mitt Romney and all these guys. You're like, how did this happen? Reince Priebus. How did Trump come in and just blow all these guys out of the water?
It's not hard.
That's how.
Because it was the Washington Generals basketball team. Cool.
Totally. So yeah, shout out to Harris there. Happy birthday, Kevin. But we move on now. So we have the 2-year anniversary of Dobbs.
Woo.
And I also want to get into a lot of the Rupnik talk here, so we might have to be a little bit brief on this section.
Ooh, yep.
But what I'm hoping to have this conversation about, because I know many people feel discouraged in the pro-life movement. After Dobbs drops, it feels like all the energy has kind of been sucked out of the movement in terms of losing on a lot of ballot initiatives in different places and taking some hard losses. But I think there are a lot of positives and wins that have come over the past 2 years that people haven't focused on as much or maybe don't fully understand. So hopefully now we can give a good picture of where we are 2 years post Dobbs and bring up some of the positives. So Erika, if you want to get into a little bit of that analysis, that'd be great.
Yeah, totally. So we had a number come out from Susan B. Anthony Group that the estimate is that 32,000 children are alive today because of Dobbs. And these are women who they were in a state where, you know, their pregnancy had progressed beyond the legal limit for abortion. Again, the 32,000 souls who have a shot at life because of Dobbs. So like bottom line, that alone, Dobbs was a great thing. We also, just to run through some of the numbers here, and Ethics and Public Policy Center, they did a great report on 2 years after Dobbs. So shout out to Patrick T. Brown over there. It was really
cool.
encouraging. Yeah, he's a cool guy, right? Patrick, we love you. So there are 14 states that now fully protect unborn children in most cases. There's always the life of the mother clause, right? 7 additional states have passed protections for the unborn that were not permissible under Roe. Were not even an option until 2 years ago, with legal barriers to abortions set at, 6, 8, 12, 15, 18 weeks in various. There's a great map there. And you can really see that south and center of the country with this map. It's a good visualization of the progress that has been made. None of that would have been possible. On the map, the states that have unlimited abortion, they're in yellow. Before Dobbs, the whole country was yellow. So this is progress. This is really good news.
Some setbacks, yes, but progress made, people.
Yeah, exactly. And this was really interesting to me. If you scroll down, Simon, to the map at the bottom, this is downstream from just having abortion limits. But I didn't know this. Every single state, save one, has opted to expanding Medicaid coverage for postpartum women for up to a year after childbirth. That is huge. So on the left, you'll see a map of the United States prior to Dobbs. You really only had Medicaid coverage in a robust sense for postpartum women in a handful of states. It's like a little freckles around the country. You see it. And now you look at this solid blue map of the United States. Every state except Arkansas now has some kind of support with taxpayer dollars for women recovering from childbirth and taking care of a young child for that first year of life. That again, it's downstream. It's not direct like abortion related, but this is a result of Dobbs and states grappling with the fact that more women are going to be having children, or at least having to ask the question. So again, there has been progress. I think anyone who's feeling discouraged about abortion or, oh, this is a losing issue, needs to really look at these numbers. So we'll throw that report into the chat. Hopefully it'll give you encouragement. Sorry, that's me.
What happened to your mute button? Come on.
Oh, no. We got to mute out Erika for a second. Okay. That was a coughing attack. Josh, any more thoughts on Dobbs before we get into Rupnick?
Yeah, I mean, it's true that it's a massive step forward by having the Dobbs decision, and there was some setbacks of these state initiatives, and it did super juice, suburban white liberal women into voting in record numbers, and so that's tough. A lot of women who support abortion, but maybe they voted Republican in the past on this issue, they switched over to being Democrats because of it. And so, thankfully, Trump looks like he's able to make up that ground by bringing in a lot more Hispanics and even black men into the GOP. Like, who would have thought? He's like, that was the one clip that we showed a few weeks ago or last week or whatever. Harry Ensign at CNN just like stunned that Trump is earning, according to the polls, 3 times as many blacks under the age of 50. Like, they're drifting away from Biden and they're surging into the Trump camp. So again, We're not out of the woods. We've got a lot of work to do on this. My home state of Michigan, has got a lot of work to do.
Gotta get with it.
Yeah, got to get with it. But we're going to see what we can do.
Amen. Okay, so I got to lay out this Rupnik story here. Erika confirmed okay. Can we get a thumbs up from Erika? Okay, there we go. Sweet. We have people in the chat worried about you, of course. So Erika is all good. So now we have this Rupnik story. Okay, so I'm going to lay it all out of what happened. This was June 21st at the 2024 Catholic Media Conference in Atlanta. So a couple key people to the story. So I'm just going to lay out this people because it's a little complex. Dr. Paolo Ruffini, he's the prefect of the Vatican's Dicastery for Communication. He attended the event with someone named Nataza Golvikar, the Dicastery's pastoral theological advisor, who has co-authored 3 books with we got to mute you for the coughs, Erika, sorry. Who has co-authored 3 books with Father Rupnik and is listed as a team member on the website of Centro Aleti, the art institute Father Rupnik founded in Rome. So these two are friends, right? So these two are friends of Father Rupnik here. And then we have America. I don't know where these balloons. What is going on in this live stream? Okay, so next we have America Magazine Associate Editor Colleen Dole. America Magazine, Jesuit publication. So not necessarily friendly with Catholic Vote on a lot of things.
Not known for being conservative.
Right,
certainly.
not exactly known for being very conservative. This person was asking a lot of the questions. And so a lot of the coverage we understand came from OSV News editor Paulina Guzik. She transcribed the back and forth going on here. So Dr. Paolo Ruffini gave this speech, basically super uncontroversial, talking about the importance of reaching out to a universal audience. But things...
Typical boring media speech.
Exactly. So things started getting pretty tense during the Q&A. This is when, America Mag's Colleen Dole, right? So not conservative, not very friendly to us here, asked a question about the Dicastery's regular practice of posting art by Father Marco Rupnik, a Rome-based priest accused of sexually abusing multiple women, on the Vatican News website and social media, especially to illustrate church feast days. So for those that listen to the program, we've done entire episodes on all the abuse from this guy. Basically, the worst of the worst. All his art was inspired by gross sexual abuse that he did to nuns. So not very good. And so Ruffini responded to this question by saying, while his department would not publish any new photos of the disgraced priest's artwork, existing images of the art will remain on its website for now with no plans for removal. And so he continued to push back on criticism, arguing that as Christians, we are asked not to judge, and that while the process of the Vatican investigating into Father Rupnik is still ongoing, in anticipation of the decision that is not, in our opinion, is not good. So some background, as I was saying, the Slovenian Jesuit situation reached a boiling point when Former Jesuit. Last October, the Slovenian bishop accepted Rupnik as a priest in good standing in the diocese of Kope, K-O-P-E. And this was already
cope going on here.
Yeah, a lot of cope going on.
Major.
So basically, all of these accusations came down, and the Pope, after all of this came out recently that people were enraged about again, he reopened the statute of limitations for investigation. He had already closed it. They had already basically protected him in a lot of ways. And now that he was reincarnated, a lot of people became upset again. And now he's hot topic. His art is everywhere. It's in Lourdes. It's in many places in America. It's in the JP2 shrine. Yeah. If you ever see like really big eyes on art and mosaics, it kind of creeps you out. It comes from this guy. So the debate right now is about, because we know about all the allegations, because more and more women keep coming forward, should we take this art down? Should it be removed from these places? And pretty much everyone universally, except a few members of the Vatican, are saying, yes, we absolutely should take this down. There's no need for this to be up everywhere. He's a world famous artist. So he continues on the defense here.
Like infamous.
By saying that the legendary Italian artist Michelangelo Merici da Caravaggio, known widely as simply Caravaggio, who is in the course of his life killed a man. We didn't take his art down. Removing Father Rupnik's art from public space is not a Christian response.
I mean, look, Johnny Cash killed a man in Reno. We still listen to his music, okay? That's a joke. He didn't really kill a man in Reno. But Caravaggio is my favorite artist, so I think it's just hilarious that they bring it up. The thing is with Caravaggio, there's no one around like, you killed my brother. So it's like hundreds of years ago. So I feel like it's kind of a stupid argument, number one. Number two, Caravaggio's art is objectively beautiful and is good and true. Rupnick's art is trash, garbage. It is alien. It is nasty. It is gross. And now that we find out that the guy had molested people, it's like, now we have every reason we hate it. Take this garbage down. It was always garbage. It was always antithetical. Good art should uplift. Good art should be true, beautiful, and good. His art is none of it. It's not true. It's not good. It's not beautiful. It's ugly. It's disordered. So get rid of it. On its own, even if the guy had never hurt anybody, get rid of it because it's junk. Now you have all these women out there who are victims and they're like, this guy abused me. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is another good reason to get rid of this junk art. Because every time you put it out there, on a feast day, here's, you get the psalm books and here's the art on there again. Every time that happens, like, really, this guy, the guy who abused me, you're going to put his artwork here?
Right.
So give me a break. And the people.
Nick's making the point too that I didn't even hear you make, but I think you agree with. It's been confirmed that art was inspired by a lot of his escapades abusing nuns.
Yeah, I mean, there's been like speculation about that, but I think it maps, and not just speculation, but commentary. There's this one in particular of Jesus embracing Mary Magdalene, and they have between them, instead of 4 eyes, there are 3 eyes. They actually are sharing an eyeball, and it's very weird and sexual, and that kind of thing. It's, again, like Caravaggio, Rupnick's victims are still around. They are still members of the church, and this is an insult to them.
Well, interesting. So, so we continue to get I mean, this is some of the worst defense I've ever seen. So more defense from Ruffini. I think this is also something that can be inspiring in terms of being Christian. Ruffini said, encouraging patience towards the decision of the Vatican bodies investigating the case. We are not talking about the abuse of minors. We are talking about a story that we don't know. And then Ruffini rhetorically asked Guzik, who's from OSV, do you think that if I put away a photo of art from our website, I will be more close to the victims? Do you think so? The crowd loudly said yes. And then he responded defensively, I think you're wrong. So
this is
anytime you have to say, this is kind of like a classic, like, well, at least I'm not doing crack. Anytime you have to say as a defense, well, at least we're not talking about minors being abused.
Look, I went to a parish, and there was unfortunately a scandal, and the priest, had a relationship with someone, and like everyone was it was right in the aftermath of all the sex abuse scandals, and everyone was like, oh, it was an adult and a woman. There's a sense of relief, but no one said it is good. And it was consensual. This was obviously the guy's point here is, well, at least they're not minors. It wasn't consensual. Yeah, obviously, Josh, it's a scandal anyway.
Josh, if you have to use that as defense, you're not in a good place.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this guy, the guy,
Erika,
oh, hey, it's not totally horrible because they weren't kids. Like, my gosh, dude, do you hear what you're saying? Like, we need to remove anything associated with Rupnick, and we need to remove this Ruffini guy who's making these arguments.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Erika, I actually asked you specifically to save this, and I did not hear what you wanted to say. You talked to someone who was there, and it would be nice to just get a temperature on the room from someone who attended. What was going on? What was the feeling?
Definitely. I talked to our good friend, Tom Weiner. He's over at the Register, and he was there in the room during this. And he said it was like a switch turned on as soon as the name Rupnick dropped. And he said, all the guy had to do, all Ruffini had to do was say, we don't have any comments on this at this time. It's an ongoing discussion, period. Stop, done, end of story. But it was like he just got on this hamster wheel of hubris and just kept on going with excuse after excuse. The room was getting increasingly hostile. Yeah, and by the end here, people are shouting from the audience seats. And he's like, the guy he was so out of touch with where Americans are with this story right now. He had not done his research. He didn't know this was coming. And all he could respond with was this extreme defensiveness that it came across as everything that is wrong with the Vatican. And I said, so Tom, it sounds like there's a little too much faggotry going on there. And he said, it's about right.
Oh my gosh. It does seem like one of those rare issues where it literally is every single Catholic and outside of the church against the Vatican.
I mean, you had people from America Magazine and people from the Register on the same page like that. And like National Catholic Reporter
Unity!
were there.
Yeah.
Everyone
Bringing
was
people
there.
together.
It was the
Ironically,
first time.
his speech did
you
unify
know what?
everyone.
Maybe Rupnik is bringing the American church together. He is healing us. It's just we don't like the way that it's having to happen. But he said the whole room was this big wall of solidarity, talking to this guy. So
my hot take, I think he's like the Jeffrey Epstein of Catholic Church. He has to have dirt on people.
He's got dirt.
There's no other explanation for why people would defend him to this extent. Do you know how many priests like get dropped for nothing? Like in my life, I've seen priests get removed from dioceses, stripped of their abilities for saying something a little bit wrong, let alone sexually abusing nuns. So like he was protected for most of his career, currently a priest. He has to have dirt on people. There's no question he has dirt on people in the Vatican and could probably expose them if they're not taking care of him. That's all I got to say. He's got friends in high places. I mean, he's good friends with a lot of Jesuits. He's good friends with Pope Francis. He's good friends with these guys. He wrote books with the people defending him here. So it's bad. This is bad.
It's so bad. And that artwork needs to come down. Take it off. JP2 Shrine.
Panchamama. Someone throw it in the Tiber.
Yeah.
Throw it right in the Potomac.
Yeah, we'll throw it in the Potomac.
Ooh, Father Joe Krupp, who's been on a few videos with Edify and whatnot, he had a pretty funny, punchy thing to say. I agree with him. He said, I'm considering a fundraiser to get money to fly to Rome for the express purpose of tearing down the Rupnick images.
I'll donate.
I love it.
Speaking of sick artwork, you guys probably know it, but I'm gonna put you on. So I was at when we were driving back from vacation, I stopped at Washington and Jefferson College. Have you guys heard of that? It's in Washington, Pennsylvania, and it's super old. It's like older. It's definitely pre-1800s. And I think the one college was founded, and it was called Washington. The other one was called Jefferson, and then they eventually merged. But there was this sweet artwork called The Prayer at Valley Forge. Are you guys familiar?
Oh.
Dude.
Yeah, it's like George
So
Washington
cool.
kneeling in the dark. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah.
You got
Kneeling
it?
next to his horse at Valley Forge.
That's a good one.
So I was like, let's do a little refresh on the art talk. It's like bad art, good art.
Yeah.
Prayer at Valley Forge goes stupid. Really hard. I need to get that behind my set. That's like something I need for like a lounge. You know what I mean? Like if I ever make it one
Valley
day
Forge, dude,
and I'm able to buy a house, because that might not happen until I'm like 50. But when I do, I'm gonna get Prayer at Valley Forge.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Tom, that like there's good art, there's bad art, and then there's everything.
How cool is
there?
this?
It is. It's so beautiful. Yeah, look at the lighting in that.
We were at our low point there, man. We had a lot of soldiers that just left. A lot of guys that were barefoot in the snow. It was at the lowest point, bro.
Oh, and Congress couldn't get it together to fund his soldiers, so there's Washington praying that.
We've never had a problem with that since.
Yeah. Great. That was a lot.
Congress always seems to have money for war now.
Yeah, it reminds me of there was a Roman emperor that wouldn't pay the soldiers, or I think the Senate wouldn't pay the soldiers, and then all the soldiers just are like, all right, great. They just picked up everything, went on a hill, and just announced to the Etruscans like, hey guys, we're hanging out up here. City's over there. If you want to go do something, be my guest. And then somehow the Senate found enough money to pay them. I don't know when that happened.
It was there.
Riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah. Cool. So we slide into the Twilight Zone now. It looks like I'm first, surprisingly. I'm usually not.
Because you're
back.
back.
You took a whole week off.
That's true.
You gotta go first now.
This is one of the things I think I was tweeting on when I shouldn't have been. So, basically half the reason I'm bringing this up is because I love Josh's takes on climate protesters. But we had some climate vandalism over the weekend. One was at Stonehenge, and
so mad.
Let's see if we can get that video up of the Stonehenge protesters.
That's
my second one. Yeah. So my first one is I didn't organize this in the doc. Well, my apologies.
Well, I said because did you watch any of these Loopcasts when you were gone, dude? I talked about Stonehenge.
Right, but the PGA is a new one. So Stonehenge, there's also an update to it. Apparently, there was American tourists at Stonehenge, and while these people were doing this, they were chanting oil at them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, this is you say, was it Boy Summer or whatever you call it?
White Boy Summer.
White Boy Summer. I mean, the frat boys protecting the flag at UNC, and then screaming oil at these guys. Guys are killing it this year.
White Boy Summer is in full effect. And then my second one was they hit again at a golf event, PGA golf event. This is at the 18th hole, and Scotty Scheffler was finishing his game, and they all decided to run on here. And Scotty's just walking around real casual, but they're like throwing smoke, whatever. And I saw someone's take, and I agree with this. It's like, this just makes me want to become an oil baron and personally drill in my own backyard. Because it's just, everyone hates these people. But I think on a deeper level, because I just keep thinking, like, what could these people possibly be hoping for here? Because everyone hates them. It's making people like them less. But the more I think about it, I'm like, well, these protesters aren't doing it because they want to get you on their side. They're attacking monuments in history of Western civilization because they hate you. Like, they hate humanity. And so it's not like they're trying to, okay, come on our side now. It's like, I'm going to destroy all the things that represent you because you are the problem. You are causing climate change. You are causing the world to be worse. The world would be better without you. They're doing it as a show of hate, not as a show of, okay, we're going to get people on our side. And it's accomplishing it.
If we followed their lead and embraced all of the wacko environmental stuff they would do, millions and billions of people would be living in abject poverty, misery, and starvation. And so we need to stop these people because they're militant, and these are the worst enemies of humanity. They want more people to die and starve. Like, fossil fuels are what enable us to feed and keep people warm. And it's not a joke. This is a real thing. And by the way, I keep bringing this point back up. The people who go and they come up and they spray paint the art or Stonehenge, things they're intentionally making damage to things that can irreparably, right?
Crime against Western civilization.
And this is why we need to bring back caning, and that's why we need to have cops who, with the bobby sticks out and just pop them. I mean it, because it's like
exactly what
these guys go to jail for a day or two, and then they feel like it's a badge of honor. Like, you still need some bruises, bro, from doing this kind of stuff. It needs to hurt, because you are trying to bring a tidal wave of human misery by making billions of people starve to death. So screw you. I love fossil fuels.
So good to be back, man. I miss this. Also, Nick, I love this take. Oil protesters are paid for by big oil because their actions have only increased support for fossil fuels. I like that take.
If only.
I like that take. I think that might be a really smart conspiracy. I'll look into it.
You love yourself a conspiracy theory. Just because 80% of conspiracy theories have been proven right in the last 5 years doesn't mean the other 20% are true.
The difference between conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months, and
that's usually.
That's right.
All right. Erika.
All right. Well, continuing in our sort of environmental theme for the day, we've got the U.S. Olympic team is headed to Paris, and Paris is having some trouble environmentally. The Seine River is apparently too toxic right now for people to compete in for sports such as rowing. So Parisians are threatening to poop in the Seine and protest of how dirty it is. I'm not quite understanding that, but it must be a French thing. In other news,
they really need to get their.
The mayor of Paris announced that there will not be air conditioning or very limited air conditioning areas in the Olympic Village in Paris, and because we want to, fight climate change by this. So the U.S. Olympic team has announced that they're just going to bring their own AC units to Paris because they're
I'm so proud of my country.
USA.
The Americans are like, fine, we'll just bring our own.
It's so bad. Such a boss move. I mean, that's like a boss move, like when Trump was at G8 and just moved everybody, like, get out of my way.
That's
Total
right.
boss move. We didn't get to be the number one country in the world to come on.
Darn right.
The U.S. Olympic CEO Sarah Hirschland said Friday that while the U.S. team appreciates efforts aimed at sustainability, the Federation would be supplying AC units for what is typically the largest contingent of athletes at the summer game. And she said, our conversations with athletes, this was a very high priority. Yeah, you think? Because it's like 104 degrees Fahrenheit in Paris in the summer. This was a high priority and something the athletes felt was a critical component in their performance capability. Yeah. So go Boss USA. Just bring your own AC.
Can I
like that.
So because we're in the Olympic spirit here, could I play a quick video of Michael Phelps?
Oh, sure.
Okay, sick.
Is it?
Simon, I'm sending you right now. It's 100% worth the squeeze. So
Sweet.
someone, we're getting the Olympic spirit, and it's great because it brings us together. So someone showed this video of someone talking trash about Americans in the Olympics, and they showed it to Michael Phelps, and it just fires me up so much. So go ahead and run this, Simon. Let's look at the blood.
I'm just going to ask you to see this, how you might have used it if this was said back when you were swimming.
But it is just so much sweeter beating America.
Yeah.
There were a couple of nights, particularly the first night of competition, where we did not have to hear Star Spangled Banner ring out through the stadium. And I cannot tell you how happy that made me when we're like right next to each other in the warm-up areas. The US have this like infernal cowbell that they ring. And as someone leaves to go to the competition pool, they ring out, USA, USA. And I've never wanted to punch someone more.
Wow.
Have you seen that?
No, but I appreciate your comments, Kate. Somebody said that to me, I would lose it. I would literally make them eat every word they just said about me. Because people have done it. Chad Leclos, Thorpe, you guys have all talked about me, and I had the last laugh. So
Yes,
for the
dude.
Americans,
Boss.
if you see what I just saw, that's the first time I saw it. I would watch that thing every single day
Yes.
to give me that little extra bit of just oomph. Oh, I mean, that's
Ready to
awesome.
get back in the pool,
Well,
baby.
The good news is the Olympics will be here shortly, and we'll be able to see what the results are.
Oh man,
on
I
now.
love it, baby.
Bam.
I
Let's
love it
go.
when that means you're the number one when they're saying that kind of stuff. They're spitting
yeah.
nails at you. They noticing you because you're at the top, baby. I love it.
USA.
That's got me pumped. I might actually watch the Olympics
I'm gonna-
this year.
Yeah,
I
no
think I'm going to
kidding.
watch that every morning instead of drinking coffee. That just inspires
Oh,
me so
man.
much.
You
I'm
know,
doing a cowbell. I like the cowbell.
I know. We got to do that when I come on to the Loopcast. Let's go. Cowbell. More cowbell.
USA.
More
You
cowbell,
know-
baby.
I did watch this weekend, though, a movie that came out last year, The Boys in the Boat. Did you ever see that?
Oh, I heard about that. I never watched
Oh, dude. And it's like, there's no trash in it. Like, there's a few flirty scenes, but there's like no nudity. There's no
Huh.
real, it's
Imagine that.
awesome. It was, I watched it on Prime, so don't get yelling at me for that. But it's awesome. It's about the 1936 rowing team. And dude, I'm like, this is so good. And my 13-year-old son watched it, and he was like ready to run through a wall.
Yes,
it was
dude.
so
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
Telling you,
I'm gonna
man.
watch it with the kids.
Is
I
that
guess
Tom-
to Josh Mercer, 2 thumbs up.
Was that Tom Hanks?
Negative. I don't. He was not in the movie.
I
no.
thought or maybe he produced it or something. There was a reason why I was a little hesitant. Or George Clooney. I can't remember.
George
So I was like-
Clooney. Yep, it
Oh,
was
okay.
Clooney.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, they're going to ruin this.
But my wife and I watched it. We both loved it. We're like, there must have been something where the family in the story, they said, we don't want you to sex it up or something like
Right.
that. Because there's a few scenes like, if it would have been a normal thing, they would have just like shown some debauchery or whatever. There's one scene where the boy was in the girl's dorm, but there was no hanky panky, and he had to run out of the, jump out the window or something like that. But there's no nudity. There was no, and a fun story. It's a fun
Okay.
story.
I love Olympics movies. My second favorite movie of all time is Chariots of Fire from 1981. Oldie but goodie.
Great
man.
song.
Great. Yeah, Chariots of Fire. It's good times. But I'll check it out. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, Josh. Floor is yours.
I kind of want to do 2 ones, so I'll Twilight, so I'll go quick because I know we're run on time. But there's this ad that was running in central Pennsylvania. It was run by a bunch of left-wing group called Pennsylvania Values. These are left-wing guys supported by liberal billionaires, and they're running these ads in deep red central Pennsylvania, and it's trying to convince, Make America Great, MAGA patriots, that Trump doesn't want them to vote by mail. Now, are you understanding this? Liberal billionaires are underwriting commercials in deep red portions of the state of Pennsylvania telling them that Donald Trump doesn't want you MAGA patriots to vote by mail. Now, look, if we could get rid of all vote by mail, I would endorse it overnight in a heartbeat. However, we're not there, and therefore I am going to encourage other people. And I have voted by mail. I try to vote in person when I can, but I vote by mail, and I vote in person, and I make sure I get my vote locked in well ahead of time. But make no mistake what's going on. Liberal billionaires are financing ads to convince people who love Trump not to vote by mail because they hope that means there'll be fewer MAGA patriots voting. Everyone needs to understand this. The people who clamor the loudest for democracy are actively trying to prevent people from voting.
Yeah.
Isn't this illegal?
Disgusting.
Yeah. Is this even legal?
Look, I believe in freedom, so I feel like they should have every right to do this, but Trump has every right to call it out, and I hope he does. But just make no mistake of what they're trying to do, these kind of tactics. It's despicable, it's deplorable, and everyone needs to make sure they have a plan. They register to vote, and they get their vote early, if at all possible. And voting by mail is not ideal, but it does work. It is secure. Get it happen and get it done. That's my first Twilight. My second one, Snopes. Did you see this? This is crazy. They finally did a fact check on this whole claim. On August 15th, then President Donald Trump called neo-Nazis and white supremacists who attend the Unite the Rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, very fine people. Snopes says false. They got it right. They said They said that was false, that Trump did not call these neo-Nazis and white supremacists very fine people. Snopes says in a news conference after the rally protesting the planned removal of a Confederate statue, Trump did say there were very fine people on both sides, referring to protesters and counter-protesters. He said in that same statement he wasn't talking about the neo-Nazis and white nationalists, who he said should be, quote, condemned totally. Snopes got it right 7 years later.
Oh
Check your watch.
Jeepers, guys. 7 years.
This is so.
Way to
I
protect
feel
the
like they're
truth.
trying to cover their six in case someone said,
for
"We
sure.
never said that." Like,
It's
what?
beyond-
No, we did.
It's
like
beyond
7 years
usefulness.
after the fact.
Right.
All the damage was done.
It's
How many
like-
liberals have I met and talked to, and they still believe in this garbage?
Yeah.
And the left knows it was a lie. They didn't care. They knew they could. It was a useful lie, and they used it. And I just
Stonewall
again,
riots, baby.
I want to give
What's the-
kudos to
Doesn't
Steve
matter.
Cortez, who did the PragerU video. It was viewed millions of times back in 2019. This ad to try to counter all this garbage.
I can't remember what the attribution for this phrase is, but perception is reality. That's probably by someone much smarter. But yeah, with this
Well,
kind of
if you
stuff,
repeat a
it
lie
does not matter.
often
Like
enough,
the
right?
truth is only what people perceive.
What did
and
Mark Twain say?
undertake.
A lie will go halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on. It's
Yeah.
like, what? It's
Facts.
true.
That's
Facts.
awesome.
Mark Twain, smart guy.
Mark Twain's great.
Yeah, we went a little over in this one, but I hope you guys had fun. Fired up on the Olympics. Glad to be back. Really glad to be back. Thank you guys for keeping the show running last week. On a personal note, this was the first time I've been able to completely disconnect for a full week from the podcast since it started, which is crazy. We've been doing
Almost
it
2
about
years,
2
yeah.
years. So yeah, just really, we have an amazing team here. Thank you guys for keeping that going. We have great fans staying and listening. So if you guys want to help us out, reviews, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe here on YouTube, like on YouTube, join live streams 11 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you want to email us, loopcast@catholicvote.org. That's where you can do that. Send us in some questions. We're happy to answer them. And then if you want to support us, become a champion. It's the best way to do so. You can do that at catholicvote.org/champions, I believe. And then grab the book. We have the book in the description for God, Country, and Sanity. Always going to be pumping that. Got it behind us on the shelf. Great book. So, but best thing you can do is pray for us. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and St. Fidelis. Pray for us. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Have a great day, and we'll see you then. Peace.